Hello, today I'm going to be talking to you about the economic crisis in the U.S. I'm going to give you a little background, tell you what caused it, how it affected the economy, and I'm also going to tell you about what I think my part is in assisting in the U.S. economic recovery. We are in difficult times, not only in the United States of America, but in the global economy as well. The gap between the haves and the have-nots is widening daily, with the top 5% of the U.S. population seeing an increase in their net worth, while middle class and people of working age are seeing drastic reductions in their cash intake. What caused this crisis? Well, a quote was taken from a book published by the government printing office, and I quote, "While the vulnerabilities that created the potential for crisis were years in the making, it was the collapse of the housing bubble, fueled by low interest rates, easy and available credit, scant regulation, and toxic mortgages that was the spark that ignited a string of events which led to a full-blown crisis in the fall of 2008." End quote. Casualties of this collapse include American International Group, AIG, and Lehman Brothers. The fall of this faulty mortgage system created a terrible ripple effect that was felt way beyond the U.S. shores. Barry Ritholtz, in his Washington Post article, talks about guilty parties in the 2008 recession trying to pass the blame off solely on Congress because of their deregulation of the financial sector. That basically means that they're blaming Congress because they relaxed the laws, the financial laws, making it easier for companies to do unethical things without being caught. While this deregulation was true, it was the bank's issuance of mortgages to customers that obviously couldn't afford to pay, and the issuance of empty securities that created some of the problems that we're trying to fix right now. Most of what happened can be attributed to greed on the parts of the banks for risking their shareholders' money, and greed on the part of the investors for investing in empty securities that promise large profits. While both large businesses and small businesses suffered losses because of the credit crunch with the recession, it was the small businesses with less than 10 employees that were harder hit. This is because their ability to borrow money for short-term loans was severely restricted by the credit crunch. Their daily activities for these small businesses depend heavily on these short-term loans, and since they weren't able to get them, it forced many of them to close. The economic crisis also put a damper on consumer spending. Even though some people continue to spend, there are many of those that are pinching pennies. I know that people are always looking for a bargain. I do too. Why pay $100 when you can pay $50 for something? This bargain hunting is at a fever pitch in retail. On the job, I'm dealing more and more with customers coming in telling me that they have this amount of money to spend and that's that. And they're automatically expecting us to drop the prices of our merchandise to match up with what they say they can spend. While I sympathize, I have to remind some of these customers that we are a business and we're in business to make money, not give it away. If the store doesn't make a profit, then the employees won't be paid, and then the business will have to close anyway. This back in consumer spending can be partly attributed to the drop in middle class income. It was the middle class that was hardest hit by this recession and incurred the greatest losses. 60% of all the jobs lost in the recession were middle wage jobs. Of the jobs created, 43% were in retail, which is my current employment, employment services, and food services. These are all low-wage earners. This means that the jobs being created don't provide enough income to maintain middle-class status. This also means that Jobs that would be normally held by teenagers and entry level workers are now being held by degree holders and more established workers who are forced to stay in the workforce because they cannot afford to retire. The unemployment rate as of January 2013 was 7.9%. Add that to the rising cost of healthcare and goods and services and stagnant wages, and we have what it seems like a recipe for disaster. As bad as things may seem, though, the U.S. economy is slowly working its way back. According to Eduardo Porter in his article, Economic Health, It's Relative, compared to a lot of other countries like Denmark, Japan, Britain, and New Zealand, the U.S. economy has done better faster. President Obama's decision to bail out the banks helped prevent the U.S. economy from slipping back into a depression like the one in the 1920s, even though some of the events leading up to our current situation are similar to that time period. Porter also goes on to say that the one area the U.S. is lacking in is in the creation of jobs, and it is in the lack of creation of jobs that the U.S. has done more poorly than other struggling developed nations. I'm not exactly sure what part I will play in the economic recovery of the U.S. economy, but I believe changing careers would definitely be a start. I currently work in retail for someone else. I'm overqualified for this job, but I'm not complaining because I'm still gainfully employed and still ahead of the game of many of my fellow Americans who are still unemployed and suffering the effects of the current crisis. My plan is to change careers when I complete this bachelor's degree in supervision and management this May. I believe I can play my part by getting a better job with greater income potential. I still have a part time business, very part time right now, that I will be able to devote more time to when I finish school. More income means more spending, which means more money circulating in the economy. This is better for everyone. Getting my affairs in order, earning more income, and helping others to do the same are what I can contribute to the recovery of the U.S. economy. We must all do our part if we are to succeed. As Governor Rick Scott likes to say, let's get to work. Thank you.